Well, there's definitely pros and cons when it comes to getting older. One of my biggest cons is no longer being able to trick or treat, but at the same time, maybe that's a blessing in disguise because I don't think I can handle all that sugar. But I do tend to kind of live vicariously through the younger kids, and it's always fun for me to kind of pass on the torch, so to speak, when it comes to my love for Halloween. So whatever I can do to make their experience more memorable, I'd love to do it. So we're in a position where we can do that sort of thing, and especially with our cutters. So today I've got the Scaredy Cat lantern. It's a lantern, but also a treat basket. I guess the child, or whoever you give it to, could use it to actually trick or treat with. Or if you're making it for an adult, it's just a nice little gift box that you could give them. You can fill it with treats, and then they can use it as a little piece of home decor because it does have a really cute vintage twist to it. So without further ado, let's take a look at what we have here. And as always, we're going to begin by just doing some basic piecing first. And I'm going to move this stuff out of the way just momentarily. And so we have this little bat here, and there's 2 layers to this bat. Now we have it cut out of a glitter, and we've got some vellum for him. And initially, kind of wanted to sandwich it between the little paper stem wire. And you can do that if you want. I think I'm just going to hot glue him to the stem wire, and that's okay too. So if you do, here, let me just show you what I mean here. What we're gonna do, the little basket, the handle is gonna be made out of this stem wire. We're just gonna pop it through the little holes that we have. And what you could do if you want is you can kind of sandwich in between here. Now the stem wire is really thick. If you're using like a thinner wire, then maybe I would suggest doing that. I don't think I'm gonna like the way that's gonna look. So I'm just gonna put him on one side. I'm gonna glue him down flat. But as far as the assembly of this guy goes, and again, we're just kind of starting with something simple just to kind of get our feet wet and, get in the zone, so to speak. We've got 2 pieces of vellum that are gonna go over the little winged areas. Okay, so let's get our glue on the inside of this piece here and just pop that right over this little section here. Just make sure that you've got the entire cutaway area covered with the vellum. Okay, and do the same thing on this side. Just little dots are fine. This is going to be all covered up. You're not going to see it because we're going to end up sandwiching the other piece right on top of this piece, so we don't have to worry about anything being seen from the inside. And then we have a small little piece of vellum that's going to go over his face to give him a little bit of a different color, just to kind of keep it more interesting. Just a few little dots around his cute little batty face, and just make sure that you cover all of the little cutouts there, like that. Okay, and then to finish this off, we're going to go ahead and put glue around the entire perimeter here. Make sure that you don't encroach over the little cutaway areas so that you don't get any unsightly glue in the little vellum areas there. And then be a little more sparse with the glue around those cutouts in case it wants to kind of bleed into those areas. Now that one might be trouble for me, that last little dot that I did there. So I am going to maybe just clean that off. There we go. Okay, and then we just take him and just make a little bat sandwich here. And again, if you're planning on putting him through the wire, putting the wire through it, then you obviously want to get your little handle there and do that now. But I'm just going to do it like this, and then I'm just going to put a little hot glue right on his body there, and just put it on one side. And I don't know if I like the, I don't think it's gonna work very well sandwiching it between that wire. And then also, because this glitter is a white core, we might wanna grab a black ink. I think I have a black ink. I do. I've never even opened it though. I guess we don't really ink with black very often. And I don't think I'm even gonna grab one of my little ink pads. I think I'm just going to use it straight off of the applicator and then just run it along the edges to hide that white. Okay, that's optional, but you can see how much nicer that looks. And of course, you may not be able to get into all of the little areas using the ink pad directly, but you can always grab like a little Q-tip or something and let's see, I should have some Q-tips here somewhere. Oh yeah, I have some in my handy little drawer here. You can always just take a little Q-tip and then just work those little areas there. And again, I'm just being kind of being a perfectionist here. I don't think anyone really gonna notice the white core unless they work with paper all the time and they see these little nuances that we see all the time. But this is fun for me, so I'm gonna do it because I'm very proud of my work and I want it to be beautiful all the way around. Okay, so that's actually working out really well because it's hard to get this, well, it's not even a big ink pad for that matter. It's hard to squeeze it into these little areas without making a huge mess. So, find something that works, like a little Q-tip, and then just rub that ink right onto those little white areas. Now that is if you are using glitter like I am. You may not be. If you're using cardstock, then don't worry about it, but just want to kind of show you that you can really clean things up and make them look really nice by just almost using household items too. I don't understand is how these Q-tips, you're not even supposed to put them in your ear. Maybe that's why I can't hear as well as I used to, because I keep shoving them in there. Okay. So anyway, that was just a little tidbit. That just makes it look nice. So we can put that off to the side, let that dry, and we can take a look at the other parts of, hopefully I don't have ink on my face now. I might. Anyway, let's take a look at these sections here. This is the main part of our cat, okay? And we did the frontmost part with black glitter again, and I'm not overly concerned about inking that. I don't think that's really gonna be that visible, but there's glitter everywhere. First thing we're gonna do is you're gonna find this back layer. We did ours in a purple, and we've got some vellum that we're gonna put right here, just like that. And you wanna make sure that you've got all of the little cutouts covered up except for the eyes. You can do the eyes first, or you can do that first. It really doesn't matter. I guess I'm just gonna do these first. So let's grab our glue and just with a series of little dots. And again, this is gonna be kind of sandwiched, so no one's really gonna see it. Get your little glue on there. And get your first little eyeball in place. Just push it down, get it to stick. Now, one thing that we've done for this cat is, wow, I need to wash my hand real quick. I got black ink, and I'm afraid that's gonna get all over the place. One thing that we've done with this lantern, or this treat bag, is we've given you the option to only make one side if you want. So here, let me show you a prototype here. This is one of our early prototypes. You can see that we've got the cat's face on both sides. This one doesn't have the large panel on it yet, but again, it's just a prototype, so pretend that both sides look like this. We also have a version where you have the cat on the front, but just a flat back in case you don't want to make two cats. Okay, what is that? That's something else. Okay, So that's just a little FYI, a little tidbit there. Okay, so that is an option for you. And I believe that you're gonna find that in the extras folder. Okay, so I'm just gonna put down the next eye, like so. And just make sure that you've got it, nope, this way, there we go. Just make sure you've got it in the right place. And just use a few little dots here and there just to get that in place, okay? Now, I'm gonna take this and going to glue this down. And again, just keep your eye going around here, making sure that the placement is covering up all those little cutouts. And in my case, it is. Okay, so I'm gonna do a series of dots, and I'm gonna go a little heavier on the dots because I've got a large area to work with, and I don't want them to dry too quick. Now remember, this is gonna be sandwiched, so you're not gonna see the little dots, but we do wanna make sure that we get as much area covered as possible so that the vellum doesn't want to kind of pull away at all. Okay, I can already tell that some of those are starting to dry. So now I'm just gonna line this up with the eyes that I have there already, and that is gonna kind of help guide me and make sure that I get everything in the right place. If you're a little bit off, it's not the end of the world. That's why we've kind of added what's called a bleed to it, so that it's not, you know, so that you have a little bit of wiggle room to get it in the right place. Now let's just check our work here by looking on the back. That looks good. Okay, and now we can take this piece, and now this piece is gonna go on top here, but there's gonna be a nice little, in my case, purple shadow. And it may help to kind of lift it up as you're placing it to make sure that you've got it in the right spot. Actually, you know what you can do down here, there's no border down here. So if you line this up flush with the bottom and these two little sides here, everything else should line up properly for us. Okay, so I'm gonna put glue on the back of this. And again, it's kind of a big area, so we do have to work somewhat quick. Now in my case, because I'm using this glitter paper, it buys me a little bit of extra time because it's not as porous as like a cardstock, and I will have a little extra time before the glue starts to set, which also means that I'll have to wait a little bit longer for the glue to set once it's on the cardstock, but that's okay. Try to get into as many little nooks and crannies as you can. Focus on the perimeter, and then just do and add a little bit of glue on the inside just to kind of keep those areas from lifting up. But our main goal at this point is to make sure that that perimeter is nice and snug. Okay, so let's do that. Get a few little dots here and there, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of a very random process. There's no right or wrong, just as long as you get everything glued in place. All right, so again, I'm gonna grab this and kind of holding him by his little hair here by his, where his ears would be. And I'm looking at the bottom of the purple piece here, and I'm trying to get that lined up nice and flush and those angled sides, and then just kind of easily drop it into place without pushing or anything. And then I'm gonna lift this up and just make sure that I've got it lined up so we're not obstructing the little areas where the light's gonna shine through after we put our little tea light in there, okay? So there we go. And while I love glitter, I hate the cleanup. I think they're getting ready to ban glitter or something like that. I think it's like destroying our oceans. I don't know if that's true or not. They have that POW glitter paper that looks really good. But anyway, okay, so as you can see here, that is what one side's gonna look like. Now, I don't need to walk you through that again. You're gonna do the same thing with the other side if you are making the cat on both sides, okay? So just repeat the same process. Put the vellum down, and then put your glitter piece on top, and you'll be ready to rock and roll. Now, for the main assembly here, And as always, I love to work on things flat whenever possible. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our little panels for these pieces here, and we're gonna get those into place. Okay, now we have two larger ones, two smaller ones. This paper is actually really cool, and I did hit it with a little bit of a red ink along the edges here, just to kind of give it like a faded look. Okay, so let's get these in place while everything's flat, and just cover this with a nice thin amount of glue. Well, depending on the paper you have, you may be able to use a little bit more, a little bit less. I'm not sure. I think this is DCWV paper, and it feels like it's about 80 pound, but it does, I feel like it's a little more wobbly, and it may not sit as well, but so I'm going a little sparse with the glue. And then also just make sure that you get that glue to the very edges of the top and bottom so that those stay in place nicely for us. Doesn't matter which side, just do your best to get the holes aligned here. The hole is your guide. And then once that's in place, make sure that you have it nice and vertical. Mine was initially a little sideways, so I'm going to fix that up and then go ahead and push that down. Got a little excess glue there at the bottom. Pop out, and that's okay. It's still going to look really good. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to do that again to the other side, but while we're here, we may as well get this panel in place. And there's no guide for this one aside from the nice even border that you're going to have around the inside here and the score marks there. Okay, so let's get our glue on this. And again, I'm trying to make sure that I get my glue out to the very edges here, like that. Okay, and let's pop that in place. Again, just making sure that we keep a nice even border all the way around. Oops. Kind of erasing that glue with my fingers by just rubbing it off so I don't get any excess there, just hanging out, creating a kind of a shiny area. That's what the glue tends to do on the black. Okay, so there we go. That looks nice, and I probably should have folded that before I glued it, but it's fine. Okay, and then we're going to repeat the same process on the other side here. Just get this panel in place, and this is actually a pretty quick project. So if you have a child or a best friend, or maybe you're making these to sell at a craft fair, or maybe there's a fundraiser at church or whatever it is, you're not going to spend a lot of time on this one. This one's going to go pretty quick, especially if you decide to just make the cat's face on one side, then it'll go even faster. But it's not that bad if you do the cat on both sides. It's really not that much more work. It's just, you know, piecing a few pieces here and there with the vellum, and then that one large piece. Kind of try to make it as efficient as possible for you. Okay, so I lined it up with the hole, and now I'm checking my horizontal and vertical alignment, and that looks good. So I'm going to press down, and of course my glue is out of control. I'll tell you what though, the glue, any boo-boos you make on black definitely show up more than on any color of cardstock, just because of the contrast of the black on white with the paper. And that looks pretty good. I might be off by like 1 degree, but I'm okay with that. No one's gonna notice that. Only I will. And I'll just pray that no one else notices it. But I don't think they will. All right, so let's just spread that glue a little thin so we don't have any more accidents. And then I'm gonna line this up right nice and centered so we have a nice even border going all the way around. And as you can see, the way that this was cut on this pattern, I made sure to keep the same patterns kind of together so there's continuity there in the pattern. Okay, and you could do that too. When you cut yours out, it'll, you know, if you have a specific pattern, there'll be continuity there. So just make sure you grab the right one. Okay, so that looks great. We got that in place. How's that looking? That's not looking too bad. I think I might have gotten a little bit of glitter under there. one other thing too, we've got these little pieces here, these gear-like pieces that we're gonna put right on here. And that's just to kind of, well, it's a nice little design element, but it also serves a purpose, and that is to kind of strengthen that little area where the handle will be so that it doesn't just rip. Okay, now we've got a lot of little gear ends here that we want to try to get some glue on so that they don't come pulling back. Okay, and all we need to do is just line that up with the little hole there and give it a push, just like that. Oh, and by the way, there's a few more little things that we need to do with our little cat here too. I'll show you that in a second. He's got a nice little tongue and some cute little chompers. I'll show you in a second here. All right, so we get that nice and lined up with the hole. Give it a press. Bam. Oh, yeah, here's our kitty. Let's go back to this for a second, and then we're ready to assemble. So Mr. Kitty has a mouth. Okay, make sure you grab the right one. Oh, by the way, one thing I didn't mention is the cat, for the most part, is symmetrical except for his little tongue. Okay, so let me just show you what I mean. So when you're putting down this top piece onto that purple piece behind it, you'll notice that his little tongue is going one way here and it's going the other way there. Okay, and that's just because we wanted to kind of keep it symmetrical from both angles. But I'm going to put his little tongue in place like this. So that's going to go like that. Now I'm gluing glitter on glitter, so I'm going to put a little extra glue on there and then take a little extra time to let it set. But that should fit right into this little area here like a little puzzle. Give it a good press if you're doing glitter on glitter, and then just leave it alone for a second because it needs a little extra time. And see, it wants to peel back too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a scrap piece of paper. I'm going to throw a little bit of glue right on the end of it. Maybe just glob it a little bit. And just paint underneath there a little bit. And then I'm going to put something on top of it to hold it down, because glitter on glitter can be a little problematic. Now, there's also, like I mentioned, there's two little chompers for his teeth, his little fangs. So I'm going to throw a little bit of glue on one of them and just pop it right on top of the black area where his little fang is. Sorry that I kind of went out of order here, but I forgot that we had these little cute little finishing touches for our kitty. And it's funny, before I got Pumpkin, there was one black cat that I was considering getting, but I ended up going with my buddy Pumpkin. I'll tell you a story about Pumpkin here in a bit. Okay, so let me move that out of the way. Again, you're going to do this to both sides. We have 4 fangs and 2 tongues. If you're making a double-sided cat, then you're going to need to do that. All right, so moving on. Let me move this mouth out of the way. There's a cute little bow tie that we're going to put together here in a moment as well. But I think the best way to do this is we're going to kind of line everything up side by side like this and create the entire structure and then piece it together. That way we get at least one really good side. So I was kind of analyzing this, trying to figure out the best way to do it. And I think the best way to do this is, you can see that there's a very defined corner here. It's a huge obtuse angle, but there is in fact a corner. And we want to line that up with where this folds, okay? So that needs to be in line with that fold. And then the rest of it is going to fall into place. You want to make sure that you've got the edge of this nice and lined up with the little score mark here. And I'm going to go ahead and fold this over. Fold both sides over. And the tab is kind of weird as far as the shape, because we didn't want to obstruct the light that would be coming out of this. Okay, so what we'll do is we're going to get our glue on this tab here. And I'm going to work a little bit out towards the edge first. And then I'm going to do a nice line right up near the little score mark. I'm going to fold that down so that when I'm going to take it and just run it right up to the very edge there. There we go. Pop that down. And then again, lining up this little corner here with this line here, and then also getting it butted right up against the little score mark there. You want it to basically be right up against that score mark. Let me take a look at that and see if I got it lined up right. I did. Okay, so that's perfect. Give that a second to sit. Okay, perfect. Okay, now this part down here, we can't glue this part yet because we're not creating, we're not actually piecing this together just yet. We're going to do that last. Okay, but what we can do now is we can move over to this side here and get this glued into place just like we did on that side. Okay, so let's get that tab ready to go. And let's get this little corner here lined up with this edge like that. And we're going to glue that down just like that. Okay, so let's do that real quick. Get our glue. And again, this is all going to be covered up too because we've got the main part of the cat that's going to go on top of all this. You just want to make sure you don't get any, you don't want to get a bunch of globby glue on the front or side, or actually on the side of your project. So just be careful if you're spreading the glue like I am, be careful not to get it, not to encroach over that little score mark area. Okay, so again, just line up this little angle here with this section here to make sure that you've got that in the right spot. Get that butted right up against the little score mark area. And I think I got it pretty good there. I'm going to let that set for a second, and then I'm going to fold it over onto itself. And take a look there, take a look there. That looks good. I think I got it lined up pretty well. And just give it a push. Just make sure that that sets nicely. Okay. So far, so good. I do think this is probably the best way of doing this. Okay, I'm going to move this down so we can get the second cat face in place. I'm going to flip this over so I can fold this tab down. Okay, and let's get our glue on this section here. Just going nice and thin, and then again, one nice line right up along the edge. I might need a little more there. There we go. And just spread that out right up to the very edge if possible. Do your best. Okay, so we've got all four of these kind of interconnected. Now we're going to close it up. So if you have it laid out like I do, you can fold over one side, well, the end here, and then the other end, and you'll notice that these should match up nicely. Okay, you can see that it kind of just, when you just lay it flat like that, it matches up pretty much perfectly. Okay, so let's fold over this main tab here, and let's get our glue on it. And then we're going to seal it, we're going to close it up to pretty much form the little bag, and then we'll assemble the bottom section of it. So I'm just putting a little line of glue there at the bottom so that I can spread this out nice and thin right up to the edge. I like those nice clean seams, as you all know. And let's flatten this out. I got a little excess glue here. I'm just going to rub off. I don't want that on there. Okay, and I'm going to take this and just pop it right in place here. Just make sure that it's nice and aligned. Like that. Bam. Perfect. If yours matches up like mine is right now, that means that you did a really good job of getting everything aligned. So kudos to you if it came together for you like mine did. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this and flip it over this way so I can push down from this side as well. Get it nice and flat. Okay. That's looking sharp. Okay, good job, guys. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take these tabs and glue them to the face. And there's going to be 4 of them. Just make sure that you get them nice and folded, and we can just start on any side. It doesn't really matter. Let me get my glue on the tab here, and then of course a nice little thin line right out to the edge. Spread that out nice and thin. If you get some glue on that, it's not a big deal because we're going to be putting the main part of the cat face on there. So just tuck that in, get it lined up, and get that tab glued in place like so. You should be able to get your whole hand in there because our bottom is not on yet. Give it a good squeeze, but just most importantly, make sure that the edge there is nice and intact and it's holding on nicely, and it is. So I'm going to flip this over to the other side. Let's get that tab underneath there. Now this may be a little trickier now because this thing's not, you can't really flap it out. So just get your glue on this tab. I'll move my hand in just a second. I know it's kind of in the way. And I'll show you what I'm doing here. Okay, so you can see that we're just putting glue on that tab there. And don't worry if we're kind of bending this thing all crazy. It's not a big deal. Because again, we're going to be putting another layer on top of that. So get that in place, line it up nicely, and push down and squeeze to get that to set. There we go. Just like that. Beautiful. All right. Now, on this side here, just make sure the tabs are inside of the boxed area. Well, we're going to do this first. We're going to get our glue on here. And again, just one right up to the edge. Get it nice and spread out. Tuck it under. Line it up. And just give it a push. Squeeze. If you hear some banging around outside, that's my friend Greg's here right now, helping me, taking out a garden plot. I'm gonna sod it, and then I'm going to build my cat a little chicken coop or a cat run, so he can spend more time outside, and I don't have to worry about him getting eaten by coyotes, because he really likes to be outside. Okay, so let's flip that over and let's get our glue on this last tab here. Now this is going to be even harder to kind of finagle, but you can do it. Let's get that glue on that tab, nice little line right out to the edge if possible. And I'm going to spread that nice and thin right up to the edge. Bam. Okay, and then just get it lined up and smush it together. Voila. Pretty easy. You could probably do this faster. I'm just taking my time so that you guys can see everything clearly. And I need a little bit more glue in one little area here, so I'm just gonna paint it on. And I just want to show you this too. It's a little cheat. There we go. And that's going to give me a nice clean little seam there. And there we go. Just be patient. Let that set. We're going to put the bottom on, and then we can put the face on. And there's a little bow tie for our cute little kitty here. We're going to put that together as well. Okay, so now I'm going to put the bottom together. And so all I did was just fold over these tabs here. And you've got two, is that in focus? Let me get that in focus for you guys. There we go. Got two little rectangles here. Actually, are they square? That doesn't matter. One of them has a little L that is scored into it. That's your liner. That's going to go inside. This is our bottom. And you know what, actually I do want to see if this is square. I don't recall if it is. It is. It's a square piece, so it doesn't matter which way you put it on. But what I would recommend doing is finding just one tab first, and let's get this piece anchored in place before we try to glue the rest of the tabs down. May as well just start with one nice clean tab that we have this attached to. And again, don't worry too much about if you get glue on the face of this cat right now, because that's all going to be covered up in just a moment when we put that final piece on. So let me just spread that out nice and thin so that it sits nicely. We got a nice clean seam, and just get that lined up with your square here. And I've got, normally I would be a little more careful, but I know that this is going to be covered up, so I'm taking advantage of the fact that I can be sloppy right now. Sometimes it's fun to make a mess. Okay, so I'm going to flip this like this so that I can get a little extra leverage down here. And there we go. Okay, so to close this up now, we're going to put glue on the remaining 3 tabs. And then we're just going to close the little lid. We'll call it a lid even though it's on the bottom. And I'll start with thicker amounts of glue here. And then, as always, a nice thin line right up to the edge, like so. And let's spread that nice and thin. There we go. Voila. And now what you want to do is you want to flare these tabs up a little bit so that as we're pushing this down, it grabs more of that surface area and bonds and sets a lot quicker, and it'll be a lot more stable too. So just run your finger, I'm using my thumb to run it along the little edges here. And just be patient while that sets. Make sure that's nice and sturdy, nice and crisp. And that looks good. It's the bottom, so no one's really going to see that either. But we do want to try our best to make it as nice as possible. Now, on the inside here, you can go ahead and just put a little bit of glue in there. You can see how random that was. Doesn't really matter. And take your liner piece, the one with the little L on it, just pop it right in there and push it down to get that in place. Again, that's going to make it a little more sturdy. And we are just about done here. We're going to put our little cat face on. Okay, so let's grab our first one, and you can see how this is going to go on, just like that. Okay, and the main goal here is to make sure that when we get this lined up, that we're not obstructing the cutouts, and ideally, and as a guide, you can just use the bottom and this little angle here to help you with your initial alignment, just like we did when we were putting the glitter on the purple piece. So we're actually going to apply our glue onto this piece here, because we don't want to put it on that other piece because we don't really know where it cuts off by looking at that. But also just don't make sure that you keep the glue right on in my case, the black areas. Don't accidentally squirt it in there. Not that you would, but. And then try to get as many areas as you can, just so that we get a nice firm hold. Okay, so again, just start at the bottom here. Make sure that that is nice and aligned, and then those two angles there next to the bottom. And then the rest of it should just kind of fall into place. Now I was off. There we go. And if you run your thumb against the bottom and then your fingers along the side, that should, yeah, that's good. And then you're going to want to kind of take your hand from the inside and push that down. Actually, you can do it like this. And I think we did a pretty darn good job there. Yep. Pretty easy. And that looks pretty darn good. There we go. Okay. Got a nice good hold on the sides here. And same thing on the other side. Let's just get our glue on Mr. Cat here. It's okay to go a little heavy on this because we got a pretty heavy piece that we're putting on here, and we want it to really sit on there. And this should not warp the paper at all because we've got like 3 layers of paper on the front there that should hold this all in place for us. So you know what, I'm going to do a little more down here. Let's spread that out. Okay, and let me see here. Okay, so again, just using the bottom here, because we got a nice straight edge here on the bottom, getting that lined up. And then the sides as well. Make sure that's all nice and aligned, and then take a look through there. And that looks pretty darn good. I'm going to put this flat on my table and just push down. Okay. Here we go. Okay. And I'll show you how the little handle works here in a second. It's very simple. Okay, there we go. And again, if you are making, if you're making the one with just a solid back, then, you know, instead of the cat's face, you're going to use the one that's blank. So let me show you again real quick here. If you're making the one with the solid back, you're only going to have one of these cat faces, and you're going to have one that's solid. But the process is exactly the same, except that we have a pattern here, and this one's not a pattern. Okay, so there it is. And again, it's a pretty good size. You can tell from this angle here just how large it is. So what you're going to do is, again, I've got this, this like a floral wire that has like paper basically on it, and we're just going to take it and feed it through there, and then just bend it up like that, and then do the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to bend it first so that I can just pop it right through there, and then just bend it up. Okay, so there we go. There's our little handle. It's cute. You can see that. It's a good size. You definitely could shrink this down if you want. But I kind of like it. I kind of like it that size. Again, our little bat, we're going to affix him to the little handle here, probably just right here, roughly. Okay, you can do that later. And then let's just talk about the little bow that we have here. It's pretty easy. Okay, so to make our bow, you're gonna make 2 of these if you have 2 cat faces, or just 1 if you only have 1 cat face. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a dowel and I'm just gonna kind of curl it just to kind of get it round, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this little area here. You can see there's a little tab there. Let me fix that focus for you. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put glue on the little rectangular area here, and we're just gonna fold it in so that the score marks match up, okay? And then the little rectangle will only take up half of the wider rectangle there. Okay, so you see that. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. So let's get our glue on here. And just bring that in. It should match up nicely then. So the 2 smaller rectangles will fill in the larger rectangle there in the middle. And that's going to create our little bow. And I really need to clean this mat off before I start on my next project, because it is just caked with glue and glitter, and that's gonna cause some problems possibly. We don't want that. And the next thing we're going to do then is we're going to take this, actually I'm going to glue this to the center. So what you can do is just pop it right in the middle of your bow and then just fold it over. And then we'll put a little bit of glue on one end, just like that, and then just glue the other end on top of that, like so. If you leave a little bit of slack on that, it'll give the bow a little bit more dimension on the front. You can see how it kind of pops up a little bit, and it just makes it look a little more realistic. And then we're going to take a little bit of glue right on the back of this, okay, and we're going to take this piece. Now you'll notice that there's like a straight edge here. That's going to be facing downward. Okay, so just want to pop that right on the back like so. Make sure you get it nice and centered, like that, and just hold that in place while it sets. And then once that's dry, again, if you're making the double-sided cat head, you're making 2 bows, and you're going to glue the bow on both sides. Okay, and then you could either pop dot that or glue it. I'm going to just glue it to my little kitty here. And one thing you want to do is when you're gluing it, just make sure that if it sits, that it doesn't smush the bow. So you want to kind of keep it off of the table just slightly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and, again, because I'm gluing onto glitter, I'm going to let this really set and rest for a minute and not play with it too much. I might actually put something over it, on top of it, to kind of hold it in place. Make sure you got it nice and centered so that it's symmetrical. Okay, and I think that's about right. I'm going to put this bottle on here. Okay. But anyway, so you can see what the final product looks like. And again, this is going to be great if you've got a child, a grandchild, or someone that loves Halloween, or you love Halloween and you want to pass that torch down their way. Make them something special. They can use it to trick or treat. And after they're done, they can put a little candle in there. I know that when I was younger, luminaries were like a huge thing for me. So if I had a cute little cat like this after I went trick or treating that kind of lit up the night as I fell asleep with all my candy, I know I'd be one happy camper. So if you enjoyed the video, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That lets me know that you guys love what I'm doing and that I'm doing a good job, so I appreciate that. And if you do make this or any of the projects in our new bundle, please visit us on Facebook in the Facebook group. Do a search for Dreaming Tree Group and join myself and 7,000 plus other dreamers that inspire me and others daily. So thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to crafting with you again.
Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.scanncut.com. www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love, and dream.